Need psychotherapy online or in person? Check out tinyurl.com/THT psychotherapy. The George Brassey podcast is made possible with funding provided from Brassey Global Strategies, LLC, a leading political consulting, public policy, government affairs, and research firm. Are you interested in running for elected office? Need advice? Call or email George, 708-769-5015. Brassey Global Strategies 1@gmail.com.
Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall, Chicago Heights, Illinois. Snow was on everybody's mind at Wednesday night's Chicago Heights City Council meeting. The Chicago area was hit by a major snowstorm, and Chicago Heights had about 10 inches of snow dumped on it Tuesday and Wednesday. City Hall was closed Wednesday afternoon because of the winter storm, and garbage pickup on Wednesday and Thursday was also postponed. And students at Chicago Heights School District 163 went to remote learning Wednesday because of the storm. The mayor's chief of staff, Karen Zaranti, thanked city workers for their efforts. She told the council that city workers had been working round the clock to keep city streets open and safe, and would continue to do so throughout the duration of the storm. Fifth Ward Alderman George Brassey also lauded city workers, saying, "The snowstorm we have experienced in recent days has been terrible, but the City of Chicago Heights Public Works Department has done an excellent job in maintaining the roads during the snowstorm. Each and every resident's request that was submitted to my office was addressed in a quick and efficient fashion." Christopher Bykoskas, 4th Ward Alderman, added that Public Works is working diligently, doing a great job cleaning up the streets. In other business, Zaranti said that the city would be hosting its second Illinois Department of Public Health clinic offering vaccinations and booster shots 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Saturday, February 12 at City Hall. The council also approved an ordinance renewing the city's employee health insurance policy and premium. The city expects to see premiums remain roughly the same. The city's benefits and insurance consultant told the council that he was able to negotiate lower rates with its insurer, Blue Cross/Blue Shield PPO, despite higher prescription drug usage by the 231 employees covered under the policy. Snowstorm forces Chicago Heights to close City Hall.
Before we get to the interview, I just want to tell you about our newest sponsor, Union Signs and Printing. Union Signs and Printing is a union sign shop located near Chicago, Illinois, that specializes in the production of corrugated plastic lawn signs used in applications ranging from political and election usages to unions, schools, and businesses. They also produce a vast array of other products, including American-made, union-printed t-shirts, banners, bio cards, literature, door hangers, business cards, and trifold. Get a hold of Union Signs and Printing at 815-740-1688 or find them on the internet at unionsignsandprinting.com. And don't forget to tell them you heard about their services on the George Brassey podcast. I'm so glad to welcome my friend and colleague, Jareen Harris, licensed professional counselor, to my podcast. Jareen, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, George. Good morning.
Morning. Jareen, tell the audience a little bit about your personal journey to becoming a licensed professional counselor.
Yeah, sure. So currently, I'm a licensed professional counselor, but if we kind of rewind a little bit back to where I kind of got inspired to be where I am today, I guess it would kind of start with just, my natural curiosity about things and, early on, just kind of having this curiosity about psychology and just about why people did what they did, why they felt how they felt, and to know that there was some, sort of methods that could kind of give me insight into that was intriguing for me. And so things kind of naturally unfolded from there. And I've worked in some different settings in the mental health field, and currently I find myself in private practice.
Talk about where did you go and get trained at to become a mental health professional? Where did you go to graduate school?
Yeah, I went to graduate school at Argosy University at the Chicago location. I did my undergrad there, and I finished off my graduate program there as well.
And then after you graduate, you end up working where? What kind of setting?
Yeah, I actually stayed at I was doing an internship at a private practice. And so after I graduated, I actually stayed on at the private practice that I did my internship at. And I also worked in a residential setting with the eating disorder population. And then I kind of transitioned to a more of a job with a more social work background before I circled back around to private practice.
It's very interesting. So you went right almost into private practice after graduate school, whereas a lot of people usually do some time at an agency, but it sounds like you did the opposite.
Yeah, I did. I actually I never left. I stayed on for my internship, and I was comfortable there. I had been there for a while, developed a good relationship with the president. Um, After I've completed the internship, she asked me if I wanted to come on as an employee, and I felt good there, and I stayed there. Yeah, and I also worked. And I just had like private practice clients maybe on weekends, so I carried a small caseload while working full time as well.
Talk about what type of theories and techniques speak to you as a therapist that have piqued your interest and you think are the most helpful in serving your clients.
Yeah, so I really have come to work from a mind body approach. I've tried different theories and techniques over the course of my career, but I am at now is where I feel most comfortable and where I feel like I've seen the most success with my clients. And that is sort of a mind body approach. So, I work with clients from I guess more of a traditional aspect of working with them cognitively, but I also like to bring in the body in the session. And, what that would look like is, if you're familiar with any work of techniques from somatic experiencing or polyvagal or even some yoga informed techniques, I really like to bring that into the session. It just gives clients a new way of looking at some of the things they've experienced. So we look at the story of what's happening for them, but we also move into what's happening within the body. So, I work with a lot of clients who've experienced trauma. Anxiety is really present. And so we look at what's happening within the body. So physiological processes where, whether it's the heart rate increasing, breathing becoming shallow or increasing. We look at what's behind that in ways that we can help bring regulation to those body sensations, as well as working through some of the cognitive content that they're struggling with as well.
You mentioned somatic experience and polyvagal. Can you talk a little bit about those two concepts?
Yeah.
Any of them?
Yeah, sure. Polyvagal is a approach that was developed by um, Dr. Porges. It can be a very in-depth, complex approach, but there's ways that they've kind of come to translate it to be carried out in the therapeutic realm. But basically, polyvagal is more of a theoretical approach that kind of divides the responses of the nervous system. So, particularly when we're talking about trauma, um, from a polyvagal lens, we experience trauma in a certain nervous system capacity. So, something happens, we either shift into fight or flight, right? Or we shift into more of a freeze or shutdown, which is kind of the disassociation you might see during trauma or after. And he also talks about another stage, which is the social engagement stage, which is a way that we kind of maneuver between a healthy fight or flight response and a more of a shutdown response. We maneuver in a healthy way, but it becomes problematic according to this theory when we get stuck in a fight or flight response or stuck in sort of a freeze or shutdown response as a result of trauma. So it is a very medically informed approach. Physiology and the components of the nervous system and what happens with the nervous system when we experience something traumatic is at the kind of foundational for that approach. And similar to somatic experiencing as well, which is a concept developed by Dr. Peter Levine. He is another kind of body-based researcher, and him and Dr. Porges have done lots of work together, and their theories they have similarities, but somatic experiencing also works with looking at the ways that trauma is stored in the body. And so again, that is looking at what happens on a physiological level when we experience certain traumas, and the ways that again it gets stuck in the body and how we don't finish these kind of nervous system processes when we experience trauma, and how that affects us, and we start to see a lot of the symptoms going on. So you would kind of work with the body in a way to process some of the things and bring about regulation to the nervous system, the way that you would see mammals do. A lot of Peter Levine's work is based on his study of mammals in the wild, and when they encounter these nearly traumatic, situations where maybe a zebra is chased down by a lion and he escapes with his life, and he goes through this process of physiological responses, and he'll be right back grazing grass maybe shortly after. And he looks at the difference between what happens with humans, that we aren't able to be as resilient sometimes in the faces of trauma, but other mammals are. So can be complex, but they do a good job at kind of laying out some techniques that can be used in the therapy room to help people recover from trauma.
What do you think makes a good therapist?
I think it takes a certain level of having done your own work. I think that a lot of things can come up in a therapy room, but I think what's been most important for me is having done my own work. It allows me to sit with my clients in a genuine way. Being able to be really attuned to your clients and noticing subtle shifts, or knowing when an approach needs to be modified, changed, or just taken out altogether. So some of the feedback, verbal and nonverbal, that you're getting from your client. And so I think that requires a certain level of being present and attuned with clients.
The COVID pandemic has certainly made my practice see an increase in client requests and sessions. Talk about how the pandemic has impacted you, especially since you're more earlier in your career.
Yeah, I think the pandemic, for one, for the first time, it was, just the realization that I'm working with clients and we're all sort of experiencing a new and different change and transition that was challenging for all of us. And so we were all kind of in this space of just a challenging transition all at once. And so I definitely felt like I related to them in a different way. And then, during the pandemic, telehealth came on the scene. which was new for me. I know that I had not seen clients besides it being in person before the pandemic, but the world adjusted, and seeing people on the screen was very different for me. I pick up on body language a lot and the energy in the room during the session. And so to have to do it behind a computer screen really required me to find new ways to kind of try to tune in to my clients, what they were feeling, and adjust as needed. So that was a little bit different and challenging at times.
Jareen, you're going to be sitting for the National Clinical Mental Health Examination, which will give you the ability to practice independently in the state of Illinois. Tell the audience a little bit about that exam and your feelings about that exam.
Yeah, so it's the second exam that I would take that, as you stated, would allow me to practice therapy independently. So right now I practice under supervision. So I meet weekly with a supervisor, and I meet bi-weekly with the group supervisor. And so to have my clinical license, I wouldn't have those requirements. It is something that has always been a goal for me. I do hope to develop my own practice sometime in the future. So this is a necessary step for me. I have mixed feelings about the exam. Feel that, with enough preparation and setting enough time aside, I'll be ready to sit and take the exam, and we'll see where it goes from there.
The exam is one of the most frustrating exams, I think, on the planet. I mean, the way that it's laid out, it really makes you kind of think differently. There's only two kinds of questions: the information gathering and the decision making, and they both can overlap substantially, and that's hard to figure out on the test. So I wish you the best of luck. I know it's a very challenging exam to pass.
Yes, I've heard. Thank you, George.
You're currently with a group practice, Counseling Works. Talk a little bit about the group and what type of insurance you accept at the office.
Yeah, as you stated, Counseling Works is a group practice. We've got a variety of therapists who work with, a variety of populations. We do individual sessions, group sessions, we do couples and families, and we also see adults, teens, and children. We currently, the practice accepts a variety of insurances. I currently am paneled with Blue Cross Blue Shield PPO. Working on getting paneled with Aetna PPO as well. If you'd like to learn more about the practice, you can see sort of brief descriptions about myself and my work, as well as other therapists and their approaches on the website at counselingworks.com.
Jareen, what are two books that you would recommend to the audience that have been influential to you as a person, and why?
I would have to say Yamas and Niyamas by Deborah Adele. That is, basically a book about yoga's ethical practice. I'm a certified yoga instructor, so that book kind of resonates with me. It's a sort of a spiritual guide to the practice of yoga, and just very insightful to some of our daily living habits, and just lots of good information in there. Also, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van Dork, Bessel van der Kolk. And that is more of a therapy-based book, more research kind of relating to the approach that I use in the therapy room. So more new research and insights on trauma, mostly within, I would say, a medical, physiological realm more so than a cognitive realm. So two very good books that have affected me and been impactful to me professionally and personally.
Jareen Harris, licensed professional counselor. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, George.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Help George stay on the Chicago Heights City Council. Go and donate today at tinyurl.com/AldermanGeorge 2023. Need more George? Like his pages on Facebook. Friends of George Brassey PAC, Fifth Ward Business Alliance, Chicago Heights Bicycle and Pedestrian Resource Center, and the George Brassey Podcast.